Hello. Today I want to share a story from my life about how I almost lost $75,000 to my thieving and manipulative in-laws. Thankfully, I knew my way around and managed to get it back. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Tina and I'm 38 years old. I'm married to the love of my life, Joe. Joe and I met way back in college. We had the same elective and we got paired together to work on a project. With every meeting we had for our project, we realized how much we liked each other. After we were done with the project, we continued to hang out together. Pretty soon we began dating. Our relationship was very smooth sailing. We had similar personalities and we meshed really well together. I think our biggest shared value was our love for our families. Which is why, about 6 months into dating, we introduced each other to our parents. While Joe's meeting with my parents went well, meeting his parents wasn't necessarily the best. I mean, there wasn't any of that toxic mother-in-law stuff. Joe's parents, Carl and Julia, were just very closed off. Like, they didn't try to get to know me, nor did they show any interest in whatever I was saying. By the end of dinner, I was beyond embarrassed. I mean, try telling a joke and no one laughs. Instead, they just stare at you blankly. That's exactly what the entire dinner has been like. I was ready to leave. When Joe dropped me off at my place, he apologized a lot for his parents' behavior. He told me that they were just apprehensive of him dating in college because they wanted him to focus on his studies. I felt like that was a valid reason, so I let it go. About 3 years after we graduated, Joe and I got married. We waited till we were financially stable and settled to tie the knot. And that was a great decision, because being able to spend without worrying about your future is a blissful form of security. Anyway, after we got married, I began to notice a change in Julia and Carl's attitudes towards us. They had been cold towards me up until the wedding, where I had told them where I worked during a conversation. I worked in a good position in a pretty well-recognized bank. That must have piqued their interest. Suddenly, they were a little more open. However, that openness came with something a little ugly. They would make a bunch of crude remarks at my expense. Whenever Joe or I would say anything about it, they would brush it off and tell us to lighten up because they were only joking. Joe and I aren't very confrontational people, so I would kind of just stick with it. Then came the requests for money. Now, I come from a low middle-income family, so I knew what struggling looked like. The only people that helped my family were other family members, so of course when my family would ask for money, I would never say no. It started off innocently. Julia needed some money to pay off a ticket. She hadn't brought enough money with her and asked me to bring some over to her. I helped her out and never really asked to pay me back, and she never made the effort to pay me back either. Then they started purposely forgetting their wallets at home, or just not bringing enough money with them whenever they went out somewhere or whenever we went out to dinner together. And Joe or I would cover for them. Obviously, it escalated to them just straight up asking to give us the money. Eventually, we were spending more money on them than on us, so Joe and I sat down to discuss things. You know I love your parents, I know. We can't keep giving them money and covering for them like this. Yeah, I mean, I would not have any issue with it if they weren't working individuals who make more money than us. I get that, I feel the same. I don't know how to bring it up. It just feels wrong, you know? I just feel like we can put that money to use for something better, like a house. You want to buy a house? I mean, I always wanted to own a house, so yeah. Me too. I mean, we'll have to obviously stop enabling my parents, and we'll have to probably live frugally so we can have big savings in a short amount of time. But it'll all be worth it in the end. Oh my god, are we doing this? Absolutely. It's been a dream of mine to own a house too, and it'll be even better to own one with you. Oh, stop it. But I feel the same way. Joe and I started saving the next month. We put aside a little over half of our pay towards savings. It was a struggle initially, because both of us were used to certain comforts, but it was something we easily overcame. We also had to obviously have a conversation with Carl and Julia about us not giving them money anymore. Needless to say, they were not happy. Julia blatantly asked Joe if I was the reason for this change, and Joe told her that it was a joint decision. He told them of our plans to buy a house in hopes of getting them off our backs, and it worked like a charm. However, they did stop contacting us as much. We didn't let Carl and Julia's lack of contact get to us. Joe and I focused on our work and focused on saving as much as we could. Of course, sometimes we would dip into our savings to finance something big. But we got right back on track, and with our savings, didn't let that get us down. In about 2 years, we had about $76,000 in our joint account. We were overjoyed and shocked by how well we had done. It was one weekend that Joe had been avoiding me all day. I was concerned that something was up, but every time I tried to talk to him about it, he would go silent, or he would just say that it was nothing and get up and to leave. I gave him the entire day, and in the evening I sat him down and talked to him. Okay, I've given you time to figure out what's wrong. You need to tell me. There's nothing wrong. I'm going to stop you right there. Both you and I know that's a lie. Spill. Please don't be mad at me. What's wrong? I did something really bad. Oh no. What did you do? It's okay. You can tell me. I won't get mad. I gave my parents the money we had been saving up for our new house. What? Why? They called me yesterday morning and told me they had a lot of medical bills to pay off, and they had some other huge debts. They made me feel guilty about having so much money, so I gave it to them. I wanted to help them out, you know? Oh, sweetheart. Don't know how to feel about that. But I mean, if you stand by your decision to help your family, who am I to say anything? Well, that's the thing. I really regret my decision. Why? Well, I was scrolling through Facebook this morning before you woke up, and I came across this post my dad made about them going on this luxury cruise they had always been wanting to go on. Here, look. I was panicking. I didn't know what to think. How could Joe do this to us? More importantly, how could Carl and Julia do this? We had been pretty transparent with our struggles. In fact, Joe had opened up to them a lot about it. They had been the ones to give Joe advice on how to save money. To see them so openly declare on their social media about their luxury cruise, thanks to us, felt like a slap in the face. I made it even worse for myself by deciding to check our joint account balance. There was just $1,000 in there. I stared at our account balance with a blank stare. My brain was empty. I was just too shocked to think of anything. All the money we had saved up over the past few years was gone. All the years we lived frugally were gone to waste. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to be mad at Joe, even because he truly thought that his parents were in serious need of that money. But for them to be spending it on a luxury vacation? I was not going to stand for it. I could see that Joe felt horrible, and while I couldn't be mad at him, I also knew that I couldn't easily just let what he did go. He knew of the history his parents had with tricking various family members out of their money. Every time they did that, it was usually a small enough amount to forgive, but $75,000! That's way too much! I grabbed my keys and drove over to his parents' place. I knew that they wouldn't let up without a fight. Once I parked in their driveway, I took a couple of seconds to steel myself for the fight that would happen. I was most sure about one thing, and that was that I was going to get my money back. It didn't matter how, but I would. I walked up to their door and rang the bell. Oh, what are you doing here? Who is it, honey? It's just Tina. Ugh, what's she doing here? Just asked her, come over and hear for yourself too. Hi, Tina, be quick, we don't have time for you. Because you're too busy spending our money? Told you she'd be here for the money. Look, Joe gave it to us fair and square. Only because you tricked him. We did not. Yes, you did. You lied about having to pay off huge medical bills that accumulated over the years. It wasn't a lie. We really did have a lot of debt, but we cleared it all out. I'm glad we could have been of some help. Now fork over the rest of the money. It was given to us, so we get to decide what we want to do with it. Yeah. Could you do us a favour and not disturb us again? Thanks. With that, Carl shut the door in my face. I was stunned. I tried ringing the doorbell again and again. I even banged on their door, but they ignored me. I sat back in my car, fuming. I started the car, reversed out of their driveway, and then just drove around until my anger cooled down a little. The audacity that Carl and Julia had was shocking. I mean, how do you not feel bad for robbing your own child? That too by tricking them? I remember how miserable Joe had looked when I left, so I drove back home. By the time I had come back, a good couple of hours had passed and my phone had died pretty much as soon as I had left the house earlier. I walked into the house to see Joe pacing back and forth in the living room, looking beyond worried. He didn't notice me, so I cleared my throat to get his attention. He looked at me up in surprise before running up to me and hugging me really tight. "Oh my God, thank God you're safe. I was so worried." "Why? You disappeared 4 hours ago and your phone was unreachable. You didn't respond to any of my texts either. How could I not have been worried?" Okay. That was bad of me. I'm really sorry." "It's okay. I'm just glad you're safe." "Where did you go, though?" "Your parents' house." "My parents?" "Yeah, to ask them about giving us our money back." "Again, I'm so sorry." "Oh, shush. I get where you were coming from, but you need to have your wits about you." "Yeah, I will. Did they give you the money back?" "Nope." "Oh. Yeah. Again, remind me why this isn't making you freak out." "Oh, because I have a plan to make them give back our money." "Oh. Is there any way I could help?" "Oh, yeah, definitely. This plan rides on your help." Joe had a friend who worked with the income tax department, and I worked for the bank where Carl and Julia had their accounts. All I needed was a letter from Joe's friend to freeze their accounts. I would love to see how long Carl and Julia would stay away from me after they could no longer use their money from their accounts. This friend of Joe's owed him a huge favour, because Joe had been the one to use his connection to get his friend on the path to get his current job. Joe called his friend up and explained the whole situation to him. His friend was more than ready to provide a letter ordering the freezing of Carl and Julia's accounts. I got on a call with him the next day at work. I provided him with all the necessary details about Joe's parents' account. We went over the letter together, and he told me that I would get the letter in a week. That would be the perfect time, because that was around when Carl and Julia were set to go on their cruise. Since their cruise is an all-expense-paid one, they probably wouldn't even notice that their accounts were frozen. With that extra time, I could also work on filing a case against them for lying and stealing from us. I knew that Carl and Julia would contact me when they realised their accounts were frozen. I would use the case as a way to get them to pay me back in full. In a week, Carl and Julia left for their cruise. They made sure to send Joe a picture of them on their ship to rub salt in the wound. Joe felt beyond upset when he saw the picture. And if I'm being honest, it made my blood boil too. But I knew that this was just going to be further proof of their crime for me to file. When they finally got back, Joe and I began to feel our excitement creep up. Every day we waited for a phone call from his parents. It took about a week before they called. "Hi, sweetheart." "Sweetheart?" "Yes, we just missed you guys, and we were wondering if you would want to come over." Did you hit your head somewhere?" "Don't be silly, sweetie. Of course I didn't, although..." "Ah, yes, there it is. What's wrong?" "Don't be rude. But yes, Carl and I have a bit of a problem." "And why do I help you out? Didn't you guys ask me to not disturb you?" "Tina, please, it's a matter of our survival. Our bank account is frozen for some reason, and since you work at our bank, could you look into us and tell us about it?" I'll think about it." "Please, we're begging you, just somehow unfreeze our accounts. We don't have much cash on us to last us through the week." "Oof, that's tough. Anyways, I'll see what I can do." I hung up the call, feeling Julia and Carl's desperation made me tingle with a sick sense of satisfaction. But my plan was not done yet. I was going to string them along for a while before slapping them with the truth. I was going to make them feel the anxiety and betrayal I had felt. So for the next week, Joe ignored their calls for the most part. Whenever he did pick up, they would ask him for money, but he would always coldly say no and say that he was busy. I, on the other hand, carried on as regular with my week. Julia would call me every day to check if I had any information on how to unfreeze their account. With every day that passed, I could sense their panic rise more. I don't know where they got the money from, but they managed to survive another week. By the second week, I began to ignore their calls, and I would answer sometimes, but only to tell them I couldn't talk at the moment. It was fun to play with them the way they had played with us. But eventually I got bored of the games, so I told them I had information for them. They invited Joe and I over to dinner at their place. All of their rudeness and mean attitude was absent. They were suddenly super nice to me and even prioritised me instead of ignoring me like usual. Joe and I struggled to contain our laughter at their pathetic attempt to seem nice. After dinner was done, I pulled out the folder containing the information out of my bag and set it on the table. Julia and Carl looked at me nervously.
Oh, what did you find out, dear?
Yeah, we'll be able to get our account back. I don't think so. At least not for a couple of months. Wait! What? Why? The funny thing is, I completely forgot I had done this when you were on a cruise.
What are you talking about?
I had your account frozen. What? Are you mad? Why would you do that? That's what you get for manipulating your son and stealing from us. You're a monster. No, you guys are monsters. You knew just how much owning a house meant to Joe. You knew how hard he worked to earn that money. You know of all the sacrifices we had made, yet you stole from us. How many times do I have to tell you that we did not lie? Get our account unfrozen now. You did lie. Just because you embellished the lie doesn't take away the fact that it was still a lie. Your account will remain frozen till you pay us back in full.
Well, we'll take you to court.
I dare you to. I've already filed a case against you guys. If you don't pay us back in full, I'll push for the case. And then you'll have to do more than just pay me. How can you do this to your own family? Oh, please, Julia, don't even try. We're giving you guys a month. Figure it out and give us the money. With that, I grabbed Joe's arm and we left. As soon as we sat in the car, we burst out laughing. We had done it. The look of shock and betrayal on Julia and Carl's face was so worth it. They'll know never to mess with us ever again. Joe tried to apologise to me again, but I assured him that it was all okay. We had ensured that we'd get our money back, and in the process, given his parents a taste of their own medicine. I don't know how or from where they got the money, but Carl and Julia paid us back a week after that dinner. I was beyond happy. Julia texted me and curtly asked me to unfreeze their account, which I gladly did the next day at work. Joe and I spent the next few weeks finalising our new house and moving in. We went low contact with Julia and Carl. We got fooled once, and it would be embarrassing if we let them fool us again. We're both people that value family, and we tend to have a very soft spot for them. Julia and Carl knew of this, which is why we couldn't let them use it to their advantage again. They also never actually apologised for what they did, so we didn't want to be involved with them until they did. Joe and I are living happily right now in our beautiful home. We're at a place where we're even planning to start a family. At a point in my life, I really thought that I had to resign to my fate. But this experience made me learn that if you take things into your own hands, life will go your way. Thank you for your time.